In this video, I'm going to share with you exactly how I set up Hyprland after installing Arch Linux for an incredible keyboard-based workflow. Hyprland doesn't include much out of the box, so I'll show you how to install all of the essential packages you'll need, how I set up my keybinds so that they're easy to use. We'll set up Rofi as our application launcher with a nice looking theme, configure Darkmode for our apps, set up a minimal Waybar configuration to get you started with a status bar, and change the default cursor to something nice. With Hyprland's latest release, we'll be configuring everything with the Lua programming language. In my next video, we'll be taking this setup to the next level with a completely custom Waybar configuration that has some really cool features like this scrolling text animation for the currently playing media, along with other nice additions to our setup like periodically changing wallpapers. So stay tuned for that. If you need to install Arch Linux first, I highly recommend you check out my complete guide on how to do this, which is the first episode in this series. Alright, so I've booted into my ThinkPad. It's running Arch Linux, and right now it's just a bare bones installation with no desktop environment. If you followed along with me in my last video and you have GNOME installed, you can just open a terminal window. I'm using Network Manager for network connectivity. The first thing you'll need to do is connect to the network so we can install some packages. You can do so with nmcli device Wi-Fi connect, the name of your Wi-Fi network, password, and the password for it if it has one. Also make sure that you have your system clock synchronized. You can check by doing time date CTL status, and you want this to say system clock synchronized. If not, you can do time date CTL set-ntp and true. I also recommend you do a full system upgrade. You can do this with sudo pacman-syu. I would recommend you do this at least once a week so that you can keep your system up to date. Now I also want to add Yay to my system. Yay is like Pacman, but it allows us to install additional packages from the Arch user repository. The easiest way to install it is to go to the Yay repository on GitHub, and down in installation, you can copy this command. I'm going to go ahead and run it. We can move back to the home directory with cd. Now we can actually install Hyprland with yay-S. We want to install Hyprland, and we also want to install Kitty, which is the default terminal emulator that Hyprland uses, and wait for the installation to finish. Perfect. We'll also need a sans serif font to render text within Hyprland. As Hyprland is really bare bones, we'll do yay-S. I recommend you install nodo-fonts. I also like to have nodo-fonts-cjk for international characters, and nodo-fonts-emoji for emojis. This isn't necessary right now, but in the future when you install fonts, you can update the font cache by doing fc-cache-fv. Finally, we can actually start Hyprland with start-hyprland, but I recommend you use a display manager. If you have GNOME installed from my last video, then you already have GDM. If you don't, then you can do yay-s, and you can install a very simple one like ly. If you want to use ly for your display manager, then you have to disable any other display managers you have enabled. For example, if I have GDM, I would have to do sudo systemctl disable GDM. And then to enable ly, you can do sudo systemctl enable ly at tty2. And then you can reboot your system. Once you reboot, you should see something like this when you're using ly. It depends on the display manager that you're using. I can use my up arrow here to go to this section that says Wayland, and I can change the option for the desktop environment with my right and left arrows. I just want to make sure that it says Hyprland. The way you do this depends on your display manager, so you might need to look up how that works for the specific one you're using. I'll just have to go down here and enter my password. Alright, so now that we're actually in Hyprland, you'll see a screen like this one. I'll go down here and click on Next. As you can see, it says that we have quite a few different applications that we are missing. We're going to be installing those in a second. I'll just continue clicking next here, next, and finish. Now that we went through that introduction, the error that we had up top is now gone. To open a terminal window, we can do Command Q. This is the default. This will open up Kitty, which we installed earlier. I'm gonna make this a lot bigger so you can see it. And I want to open a browser window. Make sure you have a browser installed. With Yay, you can look for a specific package by just typing the name. So I could do Chromium here, and it'll give me a list of options. I want the last one here, extra/Chromium. So I can just type 1 and press enter. Perfect. Now that I've installed Chromium, I just want to quickly open it up with Chromium !/dev/null and the following as well. This is just so that we don't get weird output on the terminal. We're going to be installing an app launcher later that will make all of this much easier. I've opened up the default hyprland.lua configuration file. I'll have a link for this in the description. I'm just going to copy the contents of this file. Then over here in the terminal, I'm going to do vim /.config/hyper/hyprland.lua. Go into insert mode and paste with Ctrl+Shift+V, press escape, :WQ to write and then quit. Now I'm just gonna exit Hyprland and log back in. All right, so I used Super M to exit Hyprland and I logged back in. And now that it's using the default Lua configuration file, you should have something like this. It's kind of weird that for some reason Hyprland didn't generate this default configuration file automatically, which is what has happened for me in the past. But anyways, we're good to go now to continue setting everything up. I'm gonna open a terminal window with Command and Q. I used Ctrl+Shift+ to increase the font size here. I'm gonna do cd:/.config/hyper. Now I want to modify the resolution and scaling of my monitor. To see the monitors that you have available, you can do hyperctl monitors all. Then if I scroll up here, this is my laptop screen. And down here is the monitor that I'm using right now. I need to take note of the name here. I'm gonna clear, then open up hyprland.lua and scroll with Ctrl+E. This here is basically a catch-all configuration, so that most monitors can pretty much work when connected. I'm just gonna do V and go down with J. Copy this and then paste it down here. And then here in the output, I want to specify the name of the monitor I want to modify. I'm going to do DP-1, which is what I saw in the output earlier. If we take a look at the Hyprland documentation, mode is for the resolution and position is for what virtual position of the monitor. I'm just using one screen right now, so I'm not going to worry about this. I just want to change the scale so that things are larger, especially for this tutorial. I'm just going to change the scale to 2 so that I can have things nice and big for you guys. I'm gonna save this and then I'm gonna do :Q to quit. Now there's quite a few different pieces of software that we're gonna need to have a good functioning setup. I'm gonna go ahead and install these now. I'm gonna do Yay-S and install Mako, which is used to handle notifications from desktop apps. Now I want to set up support for playback of audio and video. This is also going to be necessary for screen sharing. I'm going to do Yay-S and we're going to install Pipewire for this and Wire Plumber. We're also going to need to add specific packages so that different types of clients work correctly. We're going to do Pipewire-audio, Pipewire-pulse, Pipewire-ALSA, and Pipewire-jack. I'd also recommend you install Pavu Control, which is a nice GUI for managing your audio outputs and sound levels, etc. Now that it's installed, if I do Pavu Control, it'll look something like this. I'll close it with Command-C. After installing these, you might need to reboot your system so that everything works properly. Now we also need xdg-desktop-portal-hyprland. This handles a lot of stuff for your desktop like file pickers and screen sharing. We're also going to need HyperPollKit agent, which is an authentication agent. that will make it possible for apps to pop up a window asking for a password when they want to elevate their privileges. We'll also need Qt5-Wayland and Qt6-Wayland. This is for apps that use the Qt5 and Qt6 application frameworks. In Linux, you'll usually have either GTK apps or Qt apps. Now we've installed most of the really essential packages that we need for Hyprland to work properly for us. I'm gonna go ahead and install a nerd font, ttf-jetbrains-mono-nerd. I recommend you do the same. I've gone ahead and installed and configured everything that I need for my terminal development environment. I've been using Ghosty lately and my shell is ZSH. I have a lot of different videos on how I set up the terminal, how I configure ZSH, and how I set up NeoVim and Tmux for my work environment. You can check out other videos in my channel to learn more about how to do that, as it's not the primary focus of this video. I'm also building a complete in-depth course that will show you my step-by-step process to configure the terminal for a professional software development environment. If you're interested and want to sign up for the waitlist and newsletter, I'll have a link for that in the description. Alright, now I'm going to install some more useful apps. I already have Chromium installed for my browser. I'm going to do yay-s and do Nemo. This is going to be my file explorer. I think it works really nice. I'm going to use IMV to view images and MPV to preview videos. And I also want to install Spotify for my music player. And I want to set up some keybinds to automatically launch these apps. I'm going to move into my Hyprland config directory with cd:/.config/hyper. Then I'm going to do nvim and hyprland.lua. Then I'll do /programs, Control E to scroll up. Then down here we can set up our programs. We'll assign a variable for each of the different programs that we're going to be using. As you can see, I set my terminal to Ghosty. Yours might say Kitty here. I'm going to change the file manager to Nemo. And for the menu, we're going to be using Rofi. I'm just going to comment this out for right now. I'm going to add browser equals Chromium. Music equals Spotify. I'm going to add Notion here. This is just going to be a browser application. I'm going to do Chromium --app is equal to https://notion.so. Now actually it's better to use string concatenation here instead of typing Chromium explicitly. Let's use the browser variable, and to concatenate we can do 2 dots like so, and I'll just remove Chromium here, and that's exactly what we need. I'll save this. I got an error because the menu here is commented out. I'll remove this comment and save again. Now I'm going to do / and look for bind, so we can go down to the key binding section. As you can see, I have these warnings here from the LSP. To configure this properly, if you're using NeoVim like me, I'm going to open the file explorer. I'm going to add a file here, and I'll add a .lua_rc.json file and paste the following contents to it. You can find this code in the Hyprland documentation for setting up the LSP. I'll save this file. I'll go back to where I was with Control O, and I'm gonna do :restart to restart NeoVim. Again, do / and look for bind. And if I do Shift K over HL here, the LSP is now working, which is really nice. Now, as you can see here, we have a main modifier. This is the equivalent of the Windows key or the command key. I'm gonna add a second modifier. You could use Alt here. I'm just gonna use super plus Shift. And then down here, this line of code sets up main mod plus Q to open up a terminal. As you can see, it uses the string concatenation and hl.dsp.exec_cmd executes a specific command, which is to just open up the terminal. This is the variable we defined earlier, which is set to Ghosty for me. Instead of this, I want to use main mod plus T, and for closing windows, instead of main mod plus C, I want to do main mod plus Q. So Super Q will close windows and Super T will open terminal windows. I'll remove this comment here. This line here opens the file manager. I'll move it below the one that adds the terminal. I want this to be main mod plus F. And I'm gonna copy this line with YY, paste it, and I want to use main mod plus B to open the browser. Then I want to use plus M to open the music player, and plus N to open up Notion. Perfect, I'll save this with :W and enter. Now if I do Super T, that'll open up terminal windows. Super Q will close them. Super F will open Nemo, which is the file manager I installed. Super B will open browser windows. Now I just realized that main mod plus M is used to exit out of Hyprland, and you can see it down here. So I'm just gonna change this to second mod, which is super plus shift and then Q. So super shift Q will exit out of Hyprland, and save. And if I do super M, that'll open up Spotify, and super N will open up Notion as a Chromium app. Now this variable here isn't really being used for anything, so I'm just going to delete all this and save. Now I actually want to install Rofi for my app launcher, so I'm gonna do :Q to quit, and I'm gonna do yay-s Rofi to install it. This is a highly customizable and really useful app launcher that you can use for other menus. After installing it, we need to create the default Rofi configuration file. We're gonna do make directory /.config/Rofi. I need to add here -p, just in case you don't have a .config directory. Then to apply the default configuration, we can do rofi-dump-config >config/rofi/config.razi. Now to open Rofi, you can do rofi-show, and we want to use drun to run desktop applications -show icons. Nice, so now I can look for a specific app and then launch it. If I press escape, it'll close this out. You can also use rofi-show and run to just run a specific command. For example, I could do systemctl suspend to put my computer to sleep. Again, I'll do escape to close this. Let's set up keybinds for opening up Rofi. I'm gonna open .config/hyper/hyprland.lua /programs to look for my programs here. Then down here in menu, I'm gonna change this to rofi-show drun, just like before, -show -icons. I'm going to change this variable to launcher, and I'm gonna add another variable called runner. It's gonna be rofi-show run. This is for the two different modes I just showed you. I'll say this. I'm going to do / look for bind, and then down here, copy this line, paste it, and I want to do main mod plus space to open up the launcher. Copy this line, paste it, and I want to do second mod plus space. So super shift space to open up the runner. Alright, so now if I do super space, that'll open up the Rofi application launcher, escape to close. And if I do command shift space, it'll open up the utility for running a specific command. Now I want to update the default Rofi theme to make it look better. I need to clone a specific GitHub repository. Make sure you have Git installed on your machine. By default, if I do command plus a number from 1 through 9, I can move to a specific workspace. If I do command and 2, I'll move to workspace 2, and then I can open my browser window with command B. I'll have a link in the description to this specific repository. Down here, I'm gonna click on this code, go back to workspace 1 with command and 1, close NeoVim, paste that in with Control-Shift-V. Again, make sure you have Git installed, then go back to the browser with command and 2. I'm gonna copy this code, paste it in. This will create a directory in this location for our Rofi themes. If I do ls./themes, you'll see a bunch of different themes that are available. You can see examples of these here in the repository. I want to use the Spotlight one. It's this one, Spotlight Dark. What I need to do is copy those Spotlight files. So I'm going to do ./themes/spotlight ** to copy all the files under themes that start with Spotlight, and they're going to go in ~local/.rofi/themes. Now we need to open up Rofi in run mode. This is Command-Shift-Space, and then I'm going to look for theme selector. And then you can use your down and up arrows here. You can press enter to preview a specific theme. And you can look for a theme as well by just typing. I'm going to look for Spotlight, and I'm going to press enter on Spotlight Dark. This is the one that I want to use. To accept it, I'm going to do Alt and A. Now if I do Command Space, Rofi will automatically use the new theme. I'm going to CD back into .config/hyper. Now I want to open the Hyprland .lua file to continue my configuration. I'm going to do /.config opening parenthesis and press N for next. Over here we can configure the Hyprland look and feel. This is the size of the gap between windows. This is for outside of windows. I want this to be smaller at 10. I want the border size to be 3 instead of 2. If I save, you'll see the change reflected immediately. This is the colors for the active and inactive border. You can change this if you want. I kind of like how it looks. I'm just going to leave it how it is. And down here we have the default layout for Hyprland, which is Dwindle. Hyprland has several different layouts. You'll see that we have Dwindle, Master, Scrolling, and Monocle. With the Dwindle layout, if I open new terminal windows with Command T, it'll just keep splitting like so. To navigate between windows by default, you can do Command and your arrow keys. By default, you can also do Command and left click and move a specific window somewhere else. If you do Command and right click and drag, you can resize the window. I'm just going to close these with Command and Q like we configured earlier. If I change this to Master and save, then open new terminal windows, you'll always have a master window here on the left-hand side, and the rest will go on the right-hand side here. If I change this to scrolling, this is a new layout in Hyprland 0.55, and then save. If I do Command T to open new terminals, you'll see that we'll start scrolling to the right. It's pretty cool. I'm going to close these, and then we have Monocle. If I save, Windows will now always take up all of the available space. It's basically like a stacking layout, and you can cycle through the windows. If I open a browser window and Spotify, you should be able to cycle through these, but I haven't set up the key maps for it, so I'm just going to close the windows with Command and Q. I'm just going to change this back to Dwindle. Over here you can change how much rounding your windows have. You can make windows that are not in focus transparent. Down here in inactive opacity, if I change this to 0.8 for example and save this, open a new terminal window, whichever window is in focus is opaque and the other is transparent. I'm going to leave this at 0.85. This is for the shadows, and then down here you can enable or disable blur for when a window has some level of transparency. I don't love this, so I'm just going to set this to false. And down here you can turn your animations on or off. I really like the Hyprland animations, so I'm going to leave them. These are settings for the specific layouts that Hyprland has available. I'm just going to leave this as is. If we continue going down here under input, I'm going to add these two lines to set the keyboard repeat rate to 25 and the repeat delay to 300. I think the default is 600. I just like this to be a little bit quicker. When you hold down a key, I don't want it to wait too long before it starts repeating. If I save this, if I hold down K for example, it'll start moving the cursor pretty quickly. Under touchpad, I also like to add scroll factor of 0.2 as the default is a bit too fast for my liking when scrolling with a touchpad. As you can see here, you can use 3-finger swipe to switch between workspaces. This is really cool if you have a touchpad connected. Now down here in my keybinds, you'll see that there's a section for changing focus using your arrow keys. I'm gonna change this to use HJKL instead. So this one for going left, I wanna use H. For going right, I wanna use L. For going up, I wanna use K. And for going down, I wanna use J. I'll save that. If I open new terminal windows and I do super and then K to go up, L to go to the right, H to go to the left, J to go down. There's something wrong here. You also need to remove this keybind for toggle split. I don't really use this. I'm not entirely sure what it's for. I'm just gonna comment this out and save. Now I can do super K and J to go up and down. Now I also want to add some keybinds for moving windows around. I'm going to select these 4 lines, copy them and paste them down here. Then I'm going to change main mod to second mod. I'm gonna do that for the rest of these here. Super plus shift. And then my HJKL Vim keys, I want them to do hl.dsp.window. It's gonna be move. I'm going to copy this and paste it here and here and here. I'm gonna save this. Open new windows, and if I do Command Shift L, it'll move it to the right, H to the left, K up, J down. Now I also want to have keybinds for toggling window float. There is one right here with super plus V. I'm gonna move this keybind to down here. I'm gonna change this to second mod, and I'm gonna use T. So Command Shift T will toggle window float. I'm gonna save this. If I do Command Shift T, it'll float. And if I do Command and right click and drag, I can resize the window, left click and drag, move it around. Pretty cool. If I want to toggle back, then Command Shift T. I also want a keybind for making a window full screen. I'm just gonna copy this, paste it, and instead of float here, this is gonna be full screen. And instead of T, I want this to be capital F. Okay, save this, and I have more than one window open. If I do Command Shift F, it'll full screen. This actually isn't action toggle. I wanna change this to mode equals maximize. It's actually maximized and save. Right, now if I do Command Shift and F, it'll maximize it. I'll do Command Q to close. Down here we have keybinds that go from 1 to 10. Because of this line, it's actually from 0 to 9. So the digits on your keyboard, if you do main mod plus the key, it'll change focus to a different workspace. If you do main mod plus shift plus the key, it'll move that window to that specific workspace, depending on which number you're pressing. I want to keep it like this. I just want to change this to second mod. It's gonna be the same thing, like that, just to be consistent, as my second mod is main mod plus shift. If I do Command and 2, it'll go to workspace 2 where I have Chrome open. Command 1, go back to workspace 1. If I do Command 5, I'll go to that empty workspace. I'll go back with Command 1. If I want to move this specific window to workspace 2, for example, then I would do Command Shift and then the number of the workspace, 2. If I want to move it back, I'll do Command Shift and 1. Awesome. This is for a scratchpad special workspace. It's used to move to that special workspace and add windows to it. I'll open a terminal window. If I do Command Shift S, I'll move that window to the special workspace. Now if I want to go back to where I was, I can do Command S. So now if I do Command S, I'll go to the special workspace, Command S, exit. These two are for moving through your workspaces with the mouse. You can do Command and scroll up to switch workspace and Command and scroll down to switch back. These two are for resizing and moving windows. I already showed you those. And we have a couple here for raising and lowering the volume. If your keyboard has keys for lowering and raising the volume and stuff, these are configured to do that. We also have these binds here that set up the keys on your keyboard to stop and play media and go to the previous and next song, for example, as well as increasing and lowering the brightness of your screen. But as you can see, we need player CTL installed and brightness CTL. So I'm going to do :Q, press enter, and I'm going to install these. Player CTL and brightness CTL. Perfect, you should check if that works for you now. Alright, before we finish for this video, I also want to quickly add a minimal status bar that in the next video will upgrade and make a lot better. And I also want to change my apps to dark mode. Let's do the dark mode first. For that, I'm going to do yay-s and install nwg-look as well as gnome-themes-extra. Now we can open nwg-look. Let's do command space and look for nwg. You'll see this GTK settings option. I'll press enter to open it. And we get these different options. These come from the GNOME Themes Extra package. I'm going to click here on add white dark. And I want the color scheme to prefer dark. And apply. I'll close this. If I go to workspace 2 now where I have Chrome open, you'll see that it's in dark mode now. This will work for GTK apps. We also have to set this up for Qt applications. We're going to do yay-s Qt6CT. This is the app for configuring the theme for Qt applications. Then we need to open our hyprland.lua file. We're going to look for .env. This is used to set up specific environment variables when Hyprland starts up. We need to add an environment variable here. It's going to be called qt_qpa_platform theme, and it's going to be qt6ct. I'm going to save this. Then you might need to reboot Hyprland, and if you do qt6ct, you'll be able to change the default color scheme to something dark. Alright, for the status bar, we're going to be using Waybar, which is a really nice and very configurable status bar. I'm going to do yay-s Waybar. Then we can go to the Waybar repository, head over to the wiki, and under configuration, I'm going to click on this link for the minimal example config. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to make a directory under /.config/waybar, cd into that directory. Then I'm going to create a Waybar configuration file with neovim called config.jsonc and paste. I'm going to save this. Now I want to replace all of the instances of Sway with Hyprland. So I'm going to do %s/sway hyprland/g. On the left, we'll have the Hyprland workspaces and the Hyprland mode. This is actually supposed to be submap. In the center, the name of the window that is currently in focus. On the right, the battery status and the time. This is the max length of the window name. And these are configurations for the battery and clock modules. Everything is a module in Waybar. I'm going to open my File Explorer and I'm going to add a styles.css file. Then go over to the Waybar repository, go to the wiki, then under styling, I'm gonna click on the default style here, copy this, go back to my terminal, paste it, and for the font family, I want to use the following so that I use the JetBrains nerd font that I installed, but I want to use the Propo version so that everything is proportional. That's really important. I also like using a bigger font size. I'm going to do something like 17. This is really whatever you prefer. And the background color of Waybar, I'm going to set to black. And I want to remove the bottom border. I'm going to save this. And then if I do Command Shift Space for the Rofi run mode, I can do Waybar and start it up. My styles aren't getting applied properly. That's because I named this file wrong. This is supposed to be style.css. To see the changes, I'm going to need to close Waybar. So I'm going to do Command Shift Space, kill all, Waybar, then Command Shift Space, and run Waybar again. Perfect. So now we have a pretty nice default status bar. We have our workspaces on the left, the name of our window in the center, and the battery and time on the right. In my next video, I'll be taking this to a whole nother level and show you exactly how I do that. Now we want Waybar to start up automatically whenever Hyprland starts, and we need to configure that. I'm gonna close this with :q and press enter. Go to /.config/hyper, open my Hyprland Lua configuration file. I'm going to do slash and look for hyprland.start. Then I'm going to uncomment these 4 lines. Inside we can add these function calls to do something whenever Hyprland starts. I don't really want to start any specific applications, so I'm going to close these 2 here, and I want this to just be Waybar. So whenever Hyprland starts, we start Waybar automatically. I also need to add here hl.exe_cmd and the following command so that the authentication agent that we installed earlier starts up whenever Hyprland starts. And let's save. All right, before I leave you, I also want to change the cursor to something that's a little more nice. In my terminal, I'm going to install it with bibada-cursor-theme. Once that's done installing, I'm going to open the hyprland.lua file again, and then again look for hyprland.start. And when Hyprland starts, we want to do hl.exec_cmd. We want to use hyperctl, set cursor, it's going to be bibada modern ice, and the size, I'm going to set this to 30. I don't know if it's necessary, but down here, I'm going to also update the size of the cursor to 30. And save. I'm going to have to exit Hyprland and come back in so you can see the change. As you can see, we have the new Bibada cursor now. Alright you guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for the next one where we'll be creating the custom Waybar configuration and taking all of this to the next level. If you're interested in this, make sure to subscribe to the channel and click on that bell icon so you know when new videos get released. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like down below. And if you have any questions or feedback for me, you can also leave a comment. See you guys in the next one. Peace.